Well, hello and happy Valentine's Day, everybody, my beautiful dragon family. Boy, you guys know how to share the love. Huge dragon hearts out there. I hope you're spreading it into the world. Went in, I don't have a lot of red. I do have some red. Typically wear it around Christmas or, I always dress by the energy and the colors. And I was feeling the hot pink today. I was feeling that just embrace into the huge high heart. And so the magenta dragon here, this beautiful Pleiadian magenta dragon, is holding that energy as well for us today. Ooh, the magenta, the high heart activation, that big, truer, more pure aspect of our heart that is connected to the divine, connected to our soul self, and how we beam that out in the world. So hopefully that's what this day is bringing for you in the honoring of Saint Valentine. And the spreading of the love in the world. I should have shared, I shared it into a rock hounding group that I'm on because I don't know if you guys know, I love rocks. I love going out and seeing what the earth wants to gift me with. And I've been having fun learning how to polish rocks and tumble rocks and make beautiful things with rocks. So interesting little side note on that while everybody's joining is, very interesting. I called on Plasma Dragon some weeks ago. That's what we're talking about. Yes. So I'll go into that in a quick second, but it's very interesting on a side note on the rocks that I came across and have had in my field for, I want to say 33 years, maybe more. Some petrified wood log rounds from Wyoming that they're fully agatized, beautiful chocolate colored agate with amazing patterning inside. Well, they have been lining and gracing energetically my flower beds out on the Wyoming property for all those years. Since I left Wyoming, they were still there, and I brought them back with me this time when we sold the property. So I'm just now finally learning how to show off their beauty and what they really have inside. And I love that because I like seeing the potential in things. I like seeing the diamond in the rough. I like seeing what's within each of us, within a rock, within a piece of furniture. It doesn't matter what it is. It's like seeing the field of potential within it and learning how to draw that out. So I think it's an interesting tie-in to what I do with my work, what I do in the quantum flight program, what I do with working with people to like pull that field of potential out into its fullest. And so to get to finally do that with these beautiful rocks, particularly the logs that have been in my field, and to reveal their beauty has just been an absolutely amazing thing. I'm learning how to polish them to really just show them off. And I keep getting gifted. I'll actually post the picture after this into the comments so you can see it. But when I go rock hunting, you guys, many of you know that like when I shared the story of my Tibet group that we went and did that activation, we're going to Japan. So I assume there's going to be some, most of the trips that I go on, everywhere I go, I'm gifted a heart-shaped rock that is usually typically rock of the area, whether it's red or gray or, they're nondescript. They're nothing spectacular, but they're always in the shape of a heart. And every hike I go on, there's always one that I'm gifted. And so I have a huge collection of heart rocks. Well, now that I've started collecting more things like fluorite or agates of different colors, I'm finding them being gifted in the same way that Mother Earth just keeps showering me with these beautiful hearts. And so I'll share the photo because I shared it into my rock hounding group earlier of some of the hearts that keep coming to me because they're so incredible. I just feel this big hug from the earth when I get them. So that little side note done, sharing the love, feeling that rising up within me because I got to play with the rocks all last night. I was working on polishing some of those beauties. So let's go into, and I see that somebody had a experience with plasma dragons recently. I think that's coming more and more common because I had one of my quantum flight gals actually send a question. They've had plasma dragons coming to them. They're like, where do they fit? What is this energy? Can you talk more about it? And where do they fit in the lineage with the dragons? Knowing that I have a lineage chart, it's in the back of the book. It's been updated in the new version of the book that was put out 5 years ago. And I do keep updating as I'm teaching the classes. But the plasma dragons, I will say that the first time, and some of you have been on with me for a while, and we got a whole bunch of new people. I'm excited to see that. One of the interviews that I had done with Julia Balaz, who's a galactic astrologer, has circled back around again and is very present. And obviously, timing wise, there are people ready to dive into this and their dragon aspect and really opening that. So I've had a lot of new contacts coming in again very recently. There's always a few always coming in, but it was like whew, wow, we got a big wave coming. So there's something happening with that big wave of this next round of growth and expansion for the collective, which is super exciting. But this plasma question, the first time, and I reference that because I've talked about it in a spackled way throughout. And typically in talking about the Quantum Flight program is where I've talked about it because I've mentioned Galadrius. And Galadrius is the first plasmic dragon that I ever experienced. And he came in the very first program that I did as one of the guardians with Metatron and the dragons as I was creating space for the Way of the Dragonheart program. And how I describe the plasma dragons, particularly Galadrius, when I first experienced him, he's massive. He's like a 10-story building, like just this massive energy. And I know it's much bigger than that, but he densified down, condensed down in a way that I was able to perceive. So it's like looking at a dragon that's transparent, that if they had transparent skin so that you could see their shape and yet know, like, I can see the stars through him. It's a plasmic field, but he's taking a shape, and that only happens because he's densifying down for me to recognize the energy and coming up, approximating or approaching a density that is communicable, that is able to be communicated with. So Galadrius was the first one. I've encountered others. I have had two people in particular in my programs that embody that energy, that it's like really recognizing immediately because of their expansion field and the level of trust they had open, the level of work they'd done on themselves, that it was visible, it was presentable, I should say, where I could see and feel the energy all the way up their chain. And so one was a golden solar plasma dragon. She's actually down in Argentina. A gal that was in my Quantum Flight program 2 years ago. And then another one who was in the same program. So I find it interesting going back that marker stone of that program was a big way forward energetically. And now I'm seeing and like recognizing we did have those plasma dragons in that. We did have that big marker of like a much higher energy connection, a lot deeper trust and truth within self that led to us being able to perceive that. And the other one was able to merge with a white plasma dragon. What I also find interesting about the plasma is the part of the question was, you know, where do they sit in the lineage or the hierarchy with the dragons? Meaning, what dimensional field do they hold? Where do they sit? Because the hierarchy that I have lined out is within this universe from 3D to a 12D platform at the edges of Andromeda. And so within that, my experience and it's a very odd question to pose to higher level beings, because one of the things they shared with me, I don't know, 6-8 months ago, was a very clear, almost laughing at the fact that we like to put dimensional labels on things because we're in a linear perspective here. We're in a expansion that we have to be able to label or see it linearly. We have to see the progression. Because in higher formats, they don't use that terminology. It's really just about an energetic expansion. And there isn't necessarily this terminology. They use it for our benefit. So even when I say above 12D, most of the plasmic dragons or beings, there are plasmic beings as well, are well beyond our 12th dimensional platform. But those that have been approaching is because at soul level, many of us are from expansions that are that high. So say, for example, we put the Dragon Realms at 22D or 25D, whatever you've experienced with that. That expansion is obviously our label, but it's something that is a high enough vibration to be in the soul level field. So the soul signature is sitting within a plasmic energetic field that has characteristic of dragon. And that characteristic, as it densifies down through different expansion levels or compression levels, we might say, as we come down in density, in densification, that they take on more and more and more form, as we would call it, or taking those characteristics into something expressible, recognizable, that we see and know from here as, oh, that's dragon, or that's angel, or that's centaur, or that's unicorn, or that's fairy, or that's a master, like a humanoid form, a star being form. Whatever those are, they come down as they compress energetically. So when I even ask that question, where do they sit dimensionally, I would say that we're starting to experience them because the timepiece mechanism gateway at the 8th dimensional platform, so in the Pleiades, where we have a timepiece mechanism that sits between the 7th, 8th, and 9th dimensional triangulation. And I know that's all confusing if I'm throwing at you right now. Some of you have heard of that before, you've been in my classes, some of you haven't. That material is explained in the new book that I'm working on that's coming out this spring, The Ascension Protocol, Keys from the Dragons for Accessing Your Divine Human Blueprint. This is all explained more in detail, but it's at that 8th gateway where we had to align into what would be a timeline that would be that linear progression into 3D, into polarized field. So we actually, that's where our point of separation was with our soul level body, our soul self. So as that reconfigured, as we have opened up and started the merge process with our higher self, that means our higher soul level self is able to access and come through that gateway, which means those plasmic beings that are connected to humans that are down here in form are also that. They are using and able to come through that gateway. They're also able to come directly because we don't have to use just the elevator shaft anymore. It's all been opened up because we've started opening, and this is what my last quantum flight group did. I'm being reminded, this was their work on the solstice last winter, of expanding the 5th dimensional field of New Earth directly into all of those energetic, what we might call portals or access points for the different levels of expansion. And so as those are direct, more of these high level beings can come in. So for me, a plasmic being or a plasmic dragon is anything that typically resides at least above an 8th dimensional perspective, but most of them are outside of the 12th dimensional expansion of this universe. But they're now able to access and come in and either assist us, guide us, reconnect with us. It's part of our higher self. I know that one of my realizations in this last year was that I've always felt I'm water dragon. That is one of my huge aspects, is one of the dragons of Mu in the tectonic plates. That water dragon aspect was so predominant because it's in this field that that's all I recognized or identified with for a lot of my dragon work. And as I kept expanding and opening myself and merging with my full high soul level aspect, I came to realize, like, whoa, this is an interesting triangulation pattern here. But my higher self coming in is actually an upline of that in density comes down into what would be water form. And so that maybe you're an air dragon, maybe you're a fire dragon, maybe you're an inner earth or a deep earth or middle earth dragon, maybe you recognize or feel connected with, say, the ruby dragon. Maybe you're connected with the Orion dragons. It doesn't matter. But in that space of, all right, here's where I've been able to connect and see thus far. But as we keep going and merging with higher and higher aspects of ourself, as that unification process with our solar body, our full light body, is in process, the gates start to open where we can see and know more fully what that field and that characteristic is, which many of us are going to recognize an aspect of that plasmic, because at creation level, the soul is created in that plasmic field, especially in the much higher octaves of, I'm going to say expansion fields, of what God, Mother, Father, God as a whole, as a creator, source being, has been creating. And all of these other fields, maybe your first and foremost incarnation is in a 6th dimensional field. So maybe you're not experiencing plasmic, but you can expand into that as your soul keeps evolving. So I don't want to get too deep into that to confuse everybody right now. I feel like I'm confusing. But what I'm saying is, in my own upline, I started recognizing that I'm beyond water, that there's this crystal diamond aspect, and even above that, a diamond plasmic aspect, where I start to recognize higher vibrational octaves of my own solar body. So bringing this discussion in of those plasmic beings and the plasmic dragons for you to be able to recognize, and this is something that I mention a lot, is if it's in your field of potential or possibility, if you can expand and even know that it's a possibility, then you can start to recognize where you align to that, if you align to it. And you might not. The plasmic field might not be part of your own structure, but you might have plasmic beings that are coming to assist you, or plasmic dragons, and now you'll be able to recognize them and feel that. And I would say that most often you're going to feel, even so, saying that one of the gals is a golden solar plasma dragon. What would that be experienced like energetically? So for me, when I experienced that, knowing the solar dragons or the sun dragons, and they are different, the field of energy holds a brilliant golden glowing light. They tend to be more formed, whereas this golden solar dragon is, in a similar way to the flame dragons, it's an expression of, the flame dragons are like this, wow, this flame, literally an intense flame. They don't have a form except that that flame expands out into a recognizable form. But they don't have skin. They don't have the tangible. So the plasma dragon, the golden solar plasma dragon, you would feel that plasmic-like quality that, instead of like starlight behind it, would feel like it has sunlight bursts through it. Instead of stars spackled, it's like these bursts of energy that come through, that is that expression of that golden divine light, like a sun puts off. And it might have a form that is sort of like a dragon-esque form, like I experienced Galadrius, and yet you can feel the difference in quality with that golden solar plasma versus what I would consider like a diamond plasma. And I almost feel like they're almost even though they're all unified states of being, almost like the field from which a masculine energetic stream versus a feminine energetic stream would be birthed or brought forth. You can feel that in the subtle differences. So I'm just going to hold that as like, here's an introduction. I don't want to put too much tangible description on it for you so that you can have the experience that you're going to have with it, but have it dropped into your field of potential or possibility, because once it's there, you might recognize now, like, oh my gosh, that's what's been with me for 2 years that I couldn't actually crystallize. I couldn't actually get that deeper like connection of like, what is that? Who is that? And you might actually start to recognize more aspects of yourself. So thank you. It was Katara that brought the question forward. Thank you, Katara, for bringing that question forward. And hopefully that brought everybody a little more insight. And I find it interesting that that was the question that my live ended up being today on Valentine's Day. You guys know that I'm working in flow. That's never planned. I actually had intended to do it on Tuesday, and it didn't flow. So here we are talking about on Valentine's Day. So how is that aligned? That leads me into the energy field of, let's look at that alignment with, where do the plasma dragons fit into the expansion of our high heart? That on this, knowing like, all right, this is a day of focus, of consciousness, of intention setting into the heart expansion, into how big our heart can be, how giving, how loving, how much can we put out, so that in that field, where do those tie together? Why did this align to be discussed on this day? And where does that fit for you in, wow, why do those align together to me? Plasma dragon or plasmic beings and my high heart expansion, because I feel like there's a tie-in there for everybody that's catching this both live. I see a bunch of you. Hello, Cecile. And I saw, a few others, Jeannie and Monica and Betsabe. We've had a few, but it's so exciting to see you guys on live because it's always different. Nighthawk, who actually is on the live versus posts that I see from you guys. I know Monica posts a lot, and it's fun to go, Hello, Orbit Sabi. We've had session, and to recognize the beings that are here with me, catching this live, because the energy of it live is always a little more impactful, or like directing your field of like, wow, you need to hear it right now, versus that playback. So for everybody that's catching that today, or whenever you're watching this, feeling that connection, dive back into the energy of this Valentine's Day, even if you watch it a month from now, of what was going on with my high heart on the 14th of February of 2025, and where did that start connecting in with plasmic beings coming into my field, approaching my field, helping open me up. So wishing you a beautiful day filled with love. I have to say, I was touched this morning. My son very unexpectedly went up to the dollar store earlier this week and had spent his own money on a beautiful set of gift basket that he thinks he picked out specifically for me. He's 10, and for me, that level of open-hearted giving and conscious thought, like he thought about it a week ahead and then had to arrange a way to get up to the dollar store without me knowing. I was just deeply touched. And so that was a beautiful start to my day, cracking my heart open in a bigger way. I hope that you guys experience that today in whatever way that shows up. And we will see you next time. Watch for the release. The Ascension Protocol.com is going to be live here in hopefully about a month and a half. Things are being proofread. I've got a formatter lined up, so everything is rolling forward. The cover art is in process, and I just feel this divine weaving happening. It's super exciting. So watch for that. And even though I'm not doing sessions right now, if you're feeling the call for a session, I am starting a list. I've got a list of several people already that are really like, hey, can you let me know when you're opening sessions again, when the booking calendar is on again? Can you please let me know? So I will have a short list that I notify first to get those early spots as soon as I do open it up, if that's something you've been watching or waiting for. All right. So have a beautiful weekend. Many of us in the States have a 3-day holiday weekend. Enjoy that, everybody, whatever you're doing. And we'll see you next time. Bye for now. Huge dragon hugs out to everybody.